Welcome to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, the podcast where open source intelligence meets expert intelligence analysis. It's Halloween weekend 2025, and while most people are thinking about costumes and candy, the real fright lies in the shadow world of espionage, sabotage, and hybrid warfare. This week, Neil Bisson, director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network and a retired CSIS intelligence officer, examines how intelligence operations are becoming more personal, psychological, and pervasive. We start in London. A high-profile espionage trial collapses after political hesitations prevent prosecutors from labeling China an active threat, exposing how caution can cripple counterintelligence. Across the United Kingdom, the first convictions under the new National Security Act reveal how Russian-backed saboteurs are targeting civilian infrastructure to destabilize Western nations. But the main story comes from Silicon Valley. A disturbing trend emerges as Russia and China deploy seduction, manipulation, and human emotion to infiltrate the technology sector in what experts are calling the new era of sex espionage. And in South America, Venezuela claims to have captured a CIA-linked mercenary group, highlighting how intelligence, propaganda, and perception are merging in modern statecraft. Each of these stories underscores a scary growing reality that the front lines of espionage are no longer defined by borders, uniforms, or battlefields, but by influence, deception, and intent. Ready to jump into the shadows? Let's go!
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. It's Halloween weekend 2025 and there's nothing more frightening than having access to the information you need to stay safe from national security threats and doing nothing about it. That's why I'm here to provide you with the latest information on that shadowy world of espionage, sabotage, foreign interference, and terrorism. Each week I take the latest stories from around the globe and with insight and analysis provide you top secret level intelligence to help you stay one step ahead of the monsters that haunt our democratic dreams of freedom, safety, and well-being. From sexy spies invading Silicon Valley to CIA-linked mercenary groups in Venezuela, there's lots to discuss this week, so let's get into it. For our first segment this week, we head to the United Kingdom, where a political and intelligence controversy has erupted over the collapse of a high-profile espionage case involving alleged Chinese spies. The BBC reports that the key figures at the heart of the failed prosecution, including the Director of Public Prosecution's senior barrister and the Deputy National Security Advisor, gave conflicting accounts before Parliament about why this case fell apart. At the center of the issue are two men, Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry, who were charged under the UK's Official Secrets Act for allegedly spying on behalf of China. Prosecutors later dropped the charges, citing a lack of sufficient evidence after the government's Deputy National Security Advisor, Matt Collins, refused to classify China as, quote, an active threat, unquote, to national security. That single phrase, or rather the refusal to use it, brought the entire case to a standstill. Collins testified that he could acknowledge espionage and cyber threats from China, but could not legally or politically describe Beijing as an active threat under existing government policy. The prosecution's lead barrister, Tom Little, told the committee that without such a statement, the entire case became unsustainable. The controversy goes beyond courtroom semantics. It exposes the tension between legal evidence, political caution, and intelligence assessments. For decades, the United Kingdom has wrestled with how to confront China's covert activity without jeopardizing diplomatic or economic relations. This episode mirrors broader challenges seen in other countries, including Canada, where officials often face pressure to weigh national security realities against political sensitivities. The British government's reluctance to officially label China as an active threat reflects the same strategic ambiguity we've seen in Canada's response to foreign interference. Both cases highlight a growing problem. When intelligence assessments are filtered through political considerations, prosecutions, as well as national credibility can suffer. Legal experts have pointed out that the case's failures stem not from a lack of evidence about espionage, but from the absence of an official threat designation. Former National Security Advisor Lord Mark Sedwill told Parliament that if Collins could only echo government policy, prosecutors should have sought witnesses outside the civil service who could characterize China as a clear national security threat. From an intelligence practitioner's perspective, this underscores a critical lesson. Intelligence must inform policy, not be constrained by it. When political messaging overtakes factual assessment, adversaries benefit from the resulting uncertainty. The collapse of the UK's China spy case isn't just a legal failure, it's a warning about how political caution can undermine counterintelligence. The case also raises questions about whether Western democracies are prepared to confront espionage when doing so might strain trade or diplomacy. For Canada and other Five Eye partners, this moment serves as a reminder that national security can't be selectively defined based on convenience. China's espionage activities don't disappear simply because governments hesitate to acknowledge them. In another sign of the shifting battlefield of intelligence operations, a British court has handed down landmark sentences for an arson attack in London tied to the Russian mercenary organization known as the Wagner Group. The attack, which targeted a warehouse storing satellite communications equipment destined for Ukraine, marks one of the first prosecutions under the UK's newly enacted National Security Act of 2023. The incident dates back to March 2024, when a warehouse in East London was set ablaze, causing approximately £1 billion in damage and risking dozens of lives. The site had been used to ship communications gear to Ukraine, underscoring how modern sabotage targets not only military assets but also logistics and supply chain infrastructure. Prosecutors characterized the act as a sustained campaign of terrorism and sabotage on UK soil carried out in support of a foreign power. The ringleader, aged 21, received a 17-year sentence. His accomplices were given terms ranging from 7 to 12 years. They were the first known individuals to be convicted under the National Security Act for acts tied to hostile state sabotage. What makes this case notable is how it blends classic intelligence tradecraft with modern hybrid warfare. A private military contractor, Wagner, acting on behalf of a foreign power, uses proxy operatives in a democratic country. The target isn't a military installation, but a civilian warehouse linked to strategic communications. The law used to convict them is new, designed to fill the gap between traditional espionage and sabotage by hostile states. The National Security Act of 2023 expanded the UK's legal framework to cover espionage, sabotage, foreign interference, and other threats from state actors in the modern era. Prior to its passage, many sabotage or influence operations fell into legal gray zones. This case illustrates how hostile state tactics have evolved. Rather than large-scale invasion, we now see targeted arson, proxy attacks on supply chains and infrastructure, often conducted through intermediaries or recruits unrelated to conventional intelligence services. It signals a broader trend: adversaries testing democratic societies for vulnerabilities that lie outside the obvious theater of war. For Canada and its allies, the lesson is clear. Intelligence and national security threats are no longer confined to embassies, spies in deep cover, or diplomatic cables. They can manifest as a fire in a warehouse, a logistics disruption, and a supply chain attack orchestrated by a foreign agent halfway around the world. UK's use of its new law sets a precedent, but for democracies to stay ahead, they must ensure their intelligence frameworks, legal regimes, and public and private partnerships are ready to address sabotage as much as espionage. We move on to our main segment this week, a story that feels like something out of a Cold War spy novel, and perfectly timed for Halloween. New reports reveal that seduction has re-emerged as one of the most effective tools in modern espionage. According to the accounts from intelligence experts, both Russia and China have operatives using so-called sex warfare tactics to infiltrate the high-tech world of Silicon Valley. Instead of focusing on cyber attacks or digital intrusions, these operations use emotional manipulation, intimacy, and romance to extract sensitive information from engineers, researchers, and company executives. Unlike traditional honey traps of the past, this new generation of operatives isn't just looking for a quick compromise or blackmail opportunity. They're cultivating long-term relationships, in some cases marriages, to embed themselves within the target's personal and professional lives. Once that bond is established, emotional leverage replaces coercion. Operatives gain unrestricted access to personal devices, communications, and confidential files simply by earning the target's trust. The result is a level of access that no cyber attack could ever achieve. This strategy highlights how espionage has evolved from stealing government secrets to targeting the private sector, where intellectual property, defense-related technology, and AI research are now the crown jewels of state intelligence collection. Silicon Valley's culture of openness, collaboration, and constant networking provides fertile ground for these operations. Professional conferences, startup hubs, and online communities allow foreign operatives to blend in effortlessly. The line between business and personal life becomes blurred, and that's precisely where the manipulation begins. This phenomenon isn't unique to one nation or one tactic. It represents a convergence of human intelligence and psychological warfare, a reminder that even in the digital world, the most effective spies still use the oldest weapon of all, human emotion. For intelligence and corporate security professionals, these revelations underscore a key vulnerability: the human factor. Firewalls, encryption, and data loss prevention tools can't defend against affection or emotional dependency. The challenge now is to broaden insider threat awareness to include psychological manipulation. For companies operating in defense, energy, and advanced technology sectors, this kind of targeting must be viewed as a legitimate intelligence threat, not a personal matter. This story is a striking reminder that espionage has adapted to the times, trading dead drops for dating apps and coded messages for charm and intimacy. As the race for the latest technology becomes the new battleground, those developing tomorrow's innovations have become the new spies' most valuable targets. In an industry that thrives on collaboration and trust, the greatest vulnerability might not be in the computer's code, but in the programmer's heart. Given the media attention that this story has this week, we'll stick with it. In Silicon Valley, espionage no longer looks like it used to. There is no trench coats, secret briefcases, or Cold War dead drops. Instead, the new spy may appear as a charming investor, a networking contact, or even a romantic partner. Recent reports suggest that Russia and China are using ordinary people, often attractive, well-connected professionals, to target engineers, programmers, and executives in the tech world. These aren't trained intelligence officers, but civilians recruited or coerced into extracting information through relationships, influence, and trust. This evolution represents what experts are calling asymmetric advantage. By using ordinary individuals instead of operatives, foreign intelligence services can operate under the radar. These relationships look legitimate, and that's the point. In an environment where startup culture celebrates openness and connectivity, spies can blend in effortlessly. A casual meeting at a tech event, a lunch invitation, or a LinkedIn connection can be the start of an intelligence operation that quietly unfolds over the months. This espionage in plain sight, a slow, calculated process that leverages human emotion instead of malware, and social charm instead of hacking tools. These operations target people with access to emerging technologies that have both economic and defense applications. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and advanced manufacturing are now the domains where national power is built and where secrets are worth billions. As a result, Silicon Valley has become an extension of the global intelligence battlefield. The individuals creating tomorrow's technology are now being targeted with the same intensity once reserved for diplomats and military officials. Intelligence analysts warn that this tactic works precisely because it's invisible. There's no code to trace, no message to intercept, and no network signature to analyze. It preys on human psychology, curiosity, flattery, ambition, and desire. For corporations and governments alike, countering this threat requires a fundamental shift in how we think about security. Cyber hygiene isn't enough. Emotional and behavioral awareness must become part of the national security conversation. The line, "We're not chasing KGB agents anymore," captures the essence of this modern threat. Today's spies are not just shadowy operatives, but social chameleons, charming, connected, and credible. As the tech sector continues to drive global power dynamics, the next breach may not come from a data center, but from a dating app. The former Russian intelligence operative gaining all the attention in these segments is Aliia Roza, and she has gone public with an unsettling warning for the tech world. Aliia Roza defected to the United States in 2020 and claims that she is part of a Russian sexpionage program, a covert initiative where operatives use seduction, emotional manipulation, and psychological coercion to extract secrets from high-value targets. According to Roza, these tactics are not a thing of the past. She alleges that both Russia and China continue to deploy attractive agents to infiltrate technology companies, manipulate engineers and executives, and access sensitive data that can be exploited for state advantage. Her account reads like something out of a spy thriller, but her details align closely with modern human intelligence or human tradecraft. She describes a deliberate psychological process. The agent repeatedly, quote, appears in the target's daily life or online presence and builds subconscious familiarity, then uses charm and empathy to gain trust. Once emotional attachment is established, the manipulation escalates into subtle coercion, what she calls emotional blackmail. These tactics exploit the same vulnerabilities that make social engineering attacks so effective in cyberspace: curiosity, ego, loneliness, and the desire for connection. Roza calls this approach the 7-contact rule, where an operative will insert themselves into the target's life 7 times before initiating direct interaction, a patient and highly calculated method of recruitment. What's notable is her claim that these operations target tech professionals, not diplomats or defense officials. In today's landscape, intellectual property, proprietary code, and algorithmic research are as valuable to a foreign power as classified documents once were. In many cases, compromising a single engineer with access to source code or network credentials can yield greater strategic returns than traditional espionage ever did. Historically, honey trap operations have been used by numerous intelligence services. But what's changed is the environment. Today, digital platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, and dating apps have become fertile hunting grounds for these operations. Agents can easily build credible online personas, cross-reference professional data, and fabricate social networks, making detection difficult even for seasoned security professionals. This form of digital seduction now merges cyber and human intelligence. It bypasses firewalls, password protection, and two-factor authentication because it targets the weakest point in any security system, the human being. Roza's story aligns with documented state-sponsored influence campaigns that blend online manipulation with real-world contact. Russia and China have repeatedly been accused of cultivating insiders in technology and research sectors, particularly those tied to artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and defense-related innovation. All fields that Canada is trying to cash in on for its future sovereignty, security, and prosperity. Chief security officers, be warned. It's not your firewalls that are under assault. Every employee at a trade show, startup conference, or product pitch is now in the crosshairs of a romantic entrapment that won't show up on any pen test datasheet. The best time to sensitize your staff to this type of attack was years ago. The second best time is now. As a former intelligence officer who is aware of the techniques used to gain access through social manipulation, heed my words. Find someone who can train your staff on this topic as soon as possible, or lose any perceived technical or research advantage you think you have against your competition or a foreign state. From an intelligence standpoint, this is a classic recruitment strategy repackaged for the 21st century. The goal isn't just access to data, it's access to the people who control the data. Once compromised, a source can be exploited repeatedly through fear, affection, or dependency. Roza's claims that the United States does not engage in comparable strategies is also very telling. Western intelligence agencies typically operate under strict legal frameworks that limit personal coercion, whereas adversarial states often blur the lines that are ethical to gain that asymmetric advantage. The result is what she calls, quote, manipulation as a weapon, where emotions replace encrypted keys. Aliia Roza's story may sound sensational, but it serves as a timely reminder that espionage is no longer confined to foreign embassies or out-of-country consulates. It now extends into the heart of Silicon Valley, coffee shops, working spaces, and the direct messages of unsuspecting employees. For organizations handling sensitive research and proprietary data, human vulnerability is the new attack surface. Cybersecurity and counterintelligence must now work hand in hand to defend against both digital and emotional exploitation. For our last story this week, we head to South America, where the Venezuelan government has announced that its security forces have captured a group of mercenaries allegedly linked to the CIA, accusing them of preparing a false flag operation aimed at provoking a military confrontation in the Caribbean region. The claim comes amid escalating tensions between Venezuela, the United States, and neighboring countries. From a strategic intelligence perspective, this incident reflects a growing reliance on deniable assets and hybrid warfare tactics in international power struggles. Venezuela's leadership claims the group was acting under foreign direction to destabilize the country, a narrative that reinforces the regime's portrayal of itself as a target of Western interference. Such accusations serve dual purposes. Domestically, they bolster internal unity by framing opposition as foreign-backed. Internationally, they cast doubt on U.S. intentions in the region. Whether or not the claims are substantiated, the rhetoric itself becomes a tool of statecraft, leveraging intelligence narratives to project control and deterrence. The use of alleged mercenary or paramilitary elements fits a broader global pattern of gray zone tactics, where operations are designed to remain below the threshold of open warfare. These deniable missions blur the line between intelligence collection, sabotage, and psychological operations. The timing of Venezuela's announcement coincides with increased regional tension following joint military drills and heightened maritime activity in the Caribbean. Historically, Caracas has accused foreign intelligence agencies of attempting to orchestrate regime change operations, particularly during moments of political or economic instability. This incident mirrors previous cases in which small teams of operatives were said to have infiltrated Venezuelan territory under foreign direction. The continuing cycle of accusation and counter-accusation underscores how the intelligence domain has become central to both Venezuela's domestic narrative and its foreign policy posture. From an intelligence standpoint, this incident exemplifies how espionage, propaganda, and perception management are increasingly intertwined. Whether the captured individuals are genuine mercenaries or political pawns, the message around the arrest serves as a strategic function, signaling to foreign adversaries that Venezuela remains vigilant and capable of counter-espionage operations. For Western analysts, the claim raises broader questions about how states use counterintelligence narratives to shape public opinion and justify internal security measures. It also highlights how intelligence activity has expanded beyond traditional collection, now encompassing psychological and narrative operations designed to influence international perception as much as domestic audiences. The alleged capture of a CIA-linked mercenary group in Venezuela illustrates how intelligence, covert operations, and political theater are increasingly overlapped. In the era of hybrid conflict, information and perception are as critical as hardware or troop movements. For Canada and its allies, this event serves as another reminder that national security threats no longer unfold only in traditional battlefields. They also play out in media briefings, televised confessions, and the competing stories that shape global influence. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. I'd like to wish all the little ghosts and ghouls a fun and frightening Halloween. As a retired intelligence officer, my favorite disguise was the Invisible Man. I may have missed out on some candy, but I always had a pillowcase full of secrets. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
That wraps up this week's Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Thank you for joining us. This week, we examined how political hesitation in the United Kingdom led to the collapse of a major espionage trial, showing how caution can compromise national security. We looked at the landmark convictions under the UK's new National Security Act, where Russian-backed saboteurs turned arson into a weapon of hybrid warfare. We explored the disturbing return of sex espionage in Silicon Valley, as Russia and China use psychological manipulation and emotional targeting to infiltrate the world's most advanced technology sector. And we closed with Venezuela's claim of capturing a CIA-linked mercenary group, a case that blurs the lines between intelligence, propaganda, and perception warfare. Each of these stories reminds us that espionage and sabotage are no longer just fought in the shadows. They are woven into the political, economic, and emotional fabric of our daily lives. Producing this podcast takes extensive research, assessment, and analysis to bring you credible, informed insight into the world of intelligence and national security. If you find value in this work, please consider supporting the podcast through Buzzsprout. Your contribution, whether a one-time donation or a monthly pledge, is vital to keeping the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up independent and sustainable. You can find the link in the show notes or visit globalintelligence.buzzsprout.com to make your contribution today. Your support is what keeps this channel strong, relevant, and available to everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, share the show, and leave a review. It helps grow our community of informed listeners. Until next week, and like Neil always reminds us, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.